Hey, welcome back to this mini lecture. My name is Dino. This lecture is titled Big Brother Goes Little, The Endless Erosion of Privacy. We're going to kick it back to some historical ideas that hopefully will contextualize this discussion. What is a panopticon? Have you heard of it? It is technically, or it comes from the idea of a single watchman, and there's this great image and this great idea of Panoptes in Greek mythology is a giant with 1,000 eyes who can see absolutely everywhere due to this idea of having so many ways to look. From the myth of Panoptes, it's become much bigger. Here's a definition, or sort of a semi-definition. It's both an institutional building, which is more of its technical definition, but also what happens is a system of control. It's created by the English philosopher and social theorist Jeremy Bentham back in the late 18th century. If you wanted to break down the word panopticon, the first part, pan, means all, and all inmates of an institution can be two opticon, observed. Panopticon, all observed. So how do they go about doing this? Because unfortunately our friend Panoptes cannot be sent to all institutions. So how is this actually practically done? It was mainly thought of in terms of prisons, again by Bentham. And it's like, here's the idea, and I'll show you a couple of examples probably to make it more straightforward for you. The way it's constructed is that the inmates within the prison cannot tell if they're being watched. And as you'd imagine, if you have a central node where a watchman is watching, or watchmen are walking around a facility, they can't watch and observe all cells at once. So to trick the inmates, they need to make it feel like they're being watched at all times. And then because of this, inmates internalize the idea that they're always being watched, and it compels the inmates to constantly control their behavior. So if you think you're being watched all the time, I'm sure you've been in situations where you think you're being watched, and it kind of just changes your behaviors in some ways, and so they wanted to sort of instill that in a prison setting. I'll give you some visual examples. This is an old like a blueprint for one. It's the top left is like the outline of the exterior. The top right is the interior, and then the bottom is probably the best looking thing, where the N in the middle, at the top, the middle of the semicircle is where the watchman is, and then all the A's around the periphery at the bottom are cells. And you can see this more clearly in, like, according to the last one, the last schematic. It's like the N is that watchtower in the middle, and around the periphery that goes around, it's all of the different cells. And per the top, this is an interior view of a cell house, the new Illinois State Penitentiary at Stateville near Joliet, Illinois. As you can see here, this is kind of, again, talking about impelling or compelling behavior. In the distance, in the middle, is the watchman watching outwards, and it's so far away from the cell that the person who's here in the foreground, kneeling in penitence, cannot see whether someone's watching them. So it makes them think that they're being compelled, they're being watched at all times. Michel Foucault, in his iconic legendary book Discipline and Punish, published in 1977. This is a mini quote. The panopticon must not be understood as a dream building, as maybe Bentham and some other people thought about it. It is a diagram of a mechanism of power reduced to its ideal form. And the power is in the watchtower being exerted over the people in the cells. From the humble discovery by Bentham, there's been influences on jails and prisons in various countries: Burma, Indonesia, Vietnam. So these are kind of grouped geographically. England, as you imagine, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Scotland, and Spain in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Mexico, Canada, and USA. This is a popular rendition. This is to bring it more into the foreground. This is Lucius Fox, portrayed by the great Morgan Freeman in one of the Batman films, and in it they have these sonars that are able to check around the city, and Lucius is hesitant to use his power because, having one person, the Watchman being Lucius and Batman, or two people, looking at all these screens, it's a frightening power to have. So, do you have any thoughts on the Panopticon? Why should we have it? Is it useful? Is it positive? Does it have any negatives? Think about that for a moment or two. You might want to pause the video. Think about this. So you have this view, whether it's positive or negative. Think about the idea of the Panopticon being used in hospitals, sanatoriums, asylums, and even schools. Does this change your view? Like, think about this for schools. Most classrooms have a teacher who's standing up at the front. All the students are seated down below. The teacher can look across the school. It's a form of Panopticon. And then you might be thinking, well, what's the relation to social media? Maybe the Lucius Fox Batman example is the best. Platforms, all the major social media platforms, and the various devices we use, they track us constantly. Anytime we're walking around with a smartphone, we have a tracking device that tracks us constantly. Some other things to think about from this introduction. Do social media platforms erode personal privacy? If so, how and why? And this privacy erosion, these platforms looking into personal privacy, they're not doing it just because, we're just going to spy on people and invade their privacy. There's a reason for it. And what are the corresponding increases in commercialization of social media information? That was Big Brother Goes Little, Endless Erosion of Privacy. Thanks for listening. I look forward to having you watch soon again and seeing you soon.